Today, I want to talk about something that most people don't talk about when they're teaching people how to raise their puppy, and that is the different phases that your puppy goes through. This is one of the most important things that you can understand as a puppy owner, and yet it seems like nobody's talking about it. I get so many questions from my community wondering why their dog has changed at different times of their development, and the answer is always they're in a different phase. But people don't even know that there are phases, so they don't even know what to expect. So I understand why people get confused when all of a sudden their puppy's changing. So let's go through the different phases, and I'll teach you what to expect with each phase and how to handle it as your puppy is going through the phases. Okay, let's start. So there are three main phases. You've probably heard of these. You have your puppy phase, you have your teenage phase, and you have your adult phase. And I always say that it's like the opposite of raising a child, because you have your puppy phase, which is the baby phase, which is kind of the same. And then you have your teenage phase where they are rebellious. And then you have the adult phase where they actually act like kids when they're like 3 to 11, where they're super snuggly and you are everything to them. So we get to be in that phase for the rest of their life, which is actually really exciting, right? If we put in the work now, we're going to have that wonderful adult phase for many, many years. So let's jump into the puppy phase. So the puppy phase is actually broken up into mini phases. The first one that you are going to be a part of is the imprint period from 8 to 16 weeks. The period before that, they are very primed to bond with their dog mom and their dog family. But once they reach 8 to 16 weeks, that's actually the time when they're going to bond with their human family. And it's interesting that that's when puppies usually move to their human family, because that's actually when they're in the period of development that they are most primed to actually do that. And then yesterday we were talking about the imprint period, because that's also the best time to socialize them. So it's really important during this period that things are positive. We want to build as much confidence as we can during this period. We don't want to scare our puppy. We don't want to harshly react to anything they do, which is another reason why I love the power of yes, because we're building that confidence. We don't want to scream at our puppy. We want to build trust. We want them to know that they can count on us to be consistent and let them know what we want from them. And we don't just fly off the handle for no reason as far as they're concerned, because they don't connect the flying off the handle with the thing that they did 5 minutes ago. So during this period, you need to be watching them. We've talked about this. You need to be watching them all the time with both eyes, because they need to be able to explore. They need to be able to have new experiences, but they also need to feel safe and feel like you have got their back. So we're building trust. We're reducing anxiety. We're protecting them from stress during this period. Also, you might have noticed they have a very short attention span. They're like toddlers, right? They're into one thing, they're into the next thing. It's hard to train for more than a couple minutes at a time, and that's okay. You just need to know that, right? Training in short spurts is the best. They can't focus on one thing for too long. This is a great time to keep kibble and treats everywhere. Have little sealable containers all over your house, because you want to be ready. When they do that thing that you want, you're going to say your yes and then give them a treat. The beauty of the yes training is that you can catch that moment when they do the right thing, and then you do have a little time. They know that treat is coming, but you want to have those treats handy so that you can give them a treat pretty quickly after. So something really important to know is that within the imprint period, we're going to have a fear period. Every dog has 2 fear periods in their life, and they come up at slightly different times, but it's going to be somewhere between 8 and 11 weeks. And it lasts anywhere from a few days to maybe a week. And at this time, they become extremely fearful of many things that maybe they weren't fearful of before. You'll notice a shift in their behavior. And a lot of puppy parents are like, what happened? I did this thing 2 days ago and they didn't care. And now they're terribly fearful. We need to know that this fear period is a huge opportunity to build your dog's confidence. They naturally are going to go through this. There is no dog that does not go through a fear period, and how we react is going to determine a lot about what kind of dog they become. So you want to be extra careful to not push them into situations that they don't want to be in. Hold off a little bit on your socialization for those few days. You don't need to bring them into new experiences, new people. Anything that they seem fearful of, just back off for those few days and allow them to build their confidence. Allow them to know that you are there to protect them for that short fear period while they are babies. So it's a little tricky because this fear period comes right when they're moving in with us, usually about 8 weeks, right? Between 8 and 11 weeks. And so they already have all of these new things to adapt to. So we need to be extra sensitive to that fear period coming. Another great thing to do during this time is to get them very attached to their toys. We talked about our chew toy. That is a great thing to be using during a fear period because, as I mentioned before, when they lick a toy, right, if you freeze those fillable toys, it's my favorite tool in the world, then they spend a while licking the toy. And actually, that is a way for them to naturally soothe, to naturally calm themselves down. And they're learning how to self-soothe, which is an amazing skill for them to have as they go forward. So next we have the adolescent phase, which is from about 6 to 18 to 24 months. This is our teenage phase. So this is when all of a sudden our puppy's behavior is gonna change. This is when I get so many puppy owners reaching out to me and saying, what have I done wrong? All of a sudden, my puppy is running away. My puppy is chewing. My puppy's not listening to me. I did all of this training and now my puppy is terrible. This is when most dogs get surrendered to shelters. That's why I'm here. I want to teach people how to understand what their puppy needs so that less dogs are surrendered, because so many times it's just a misunderstanding. It's a phase your puppy's going through. It's a lack of knowledge when they were smaller to set them up to know what it is that you want them to do. So you're ahead of the game. You're here, right? So that's amazing. So in this adolescent stage, it's going to be harder for them to create positive new experiences. It's harder for them to learn that something that they're afraid of is a good thing. So you have to work a little bit harder. If you haven't finished your socialization list by the time they're 6 months, by the time they start turning into teenagers, then you're going to have to make sure you really spend the time to socialize them on all the different things that they need to learn to love. So also during this period, you don't want to over-exercise them. Their joints are growing. And if they're over-exercised, it might become painful for them, which also makes them grumpy. So that can just add to their bad behavior. You also want to keep training in short sessions. Don't give up the training. Don't think, oh, my dog's not listening to me anymore. I don't know what's happening. You want to make sure you keep training. Just hang in there. It will pay off later. And you also want to make sure you keep rewarding them for good things. Even though you might be annoyed at them, just like a teenager, for doing all the bad things, make sure you're still highlighting those good things. And if you've come into this class with an older puppy, that is a great thing for you to take from this lesson, is that okay, my puppy's really misbehaving, but I can still use the power of yes. I can still turn it around and help them to know that they are a good dog and that it's okay. And we're going to find a way to communicate what it is that we want them to do. And just resist the urge during this phase to become the alpha dog, right? They used to teach that people should be the alpha dog, like in a dog pack. That has been debunked. And we don't want to feel like, oh, my dog's so crazy. I want to make sure I dominate my dog. I want my dog to know that I'm in charge. We don't want to go there. We really want to stick with our power of yes, even though it feels frustrating because they are being mischievous, but we want to stick to that positive training because, again, it will pay off when they are older. So another thing to know about this adolescent stage is that their second fear period is going to happen between about 6 and 14 months. So this one takes owners by surprise a lot of the time because, first of all, they may not know what a fear period is at all. And then all of a sudden, their dog, who was doing so great and totally socialized, is terrified of things that they were never scared of before. They might feel like everything is falling apart. Their puppy is suddenly worried and insecure. And it's just a natural stage of development. It can't be avoided. All dogs go through it. So you just need to know it's coming and be prepared. And during that fear period, make sure, just like the first one, that you don't force them into anything scary. If they've been a little bit nervous about going to puppy playtime and they go into their fear period, let's skip that week. Let's not put them in that situation. If suddenly they're terrified of the vacuum, let's not force them to be near the vacuum. Maybe we vacuum when they're not home, when they're on a walk with somebody else, or maybe we just don't vacuum that week. We skip a week. But you just want to make sure that you're being sensitive to the fact that this is a very short period. It's only a few days to a week, and we want to go really easy on them during that time. Because again, what happens during those fear periods really ends up affecting their development as they become an adult dog. So now we're into our last phase, which is adult dog. So this transition happens at different times for different dogs, depending on their breed, depending on their size, somewhere between a year and 2 years, right? They're becoming an adult. Now is when all of your hard work will pay off. All of your consistent training through all of the phases are now going to turn your dog into a calmer, more confident dog. You want to keep doing regular walks. You want to keep doing regular training. You want to make sure you're getting your brain games in there. A great way to keep your dog's brain healthy and keep them sort of interested in life. So they're a great tool. We'll be layering in soon. You want to make sure you're still doing fun stuff with your dog and that you're giving them daily enrichment, that it doesn't turn into they're just bored all the time. Sometimes when our dogs become adults, we don't pay as much attention to them because they're not as annoying as puppies. They're not giving us as much trouble. So we just phase them out a little bit. And you want to make sure you don't do that. You want to make sure that you're still interacting and doing all the fun things with your dog and giving them all the enrichment that they need. I hope this helps you understand the different phases that your puppy is going to go through, what you can expect, what you can do to help them through these different phases. Your homework tonight is easy. You're just going to identify what phase your puppy is in and just make sure that you have a plan to help them through that phase.